to the Kingsway Podcast.
Welcome.
Here we are, back again. Ryan and me just hanging out in your office.
Yep.
I mean, in the library.
Yeah, the library. Yep.
The academic studio.
Yeah. Something like that.
How was your vacation, man?
It was super good.
You got to go to the promised land.
I did. Oregon.
Oh.
If you didn't know that, now you do. God is coming back, and he's coming back to Oregon.
Are they being facetious? No. No, we're not.
Absolutely not. Google it. No. It was really great. I got to stay with a friend from college for 4 or 5 days.
He has a great name.
He does. His name's Trevor. He's from Oregon. He's not the senior pastor at Kingsway, but he is a Trevor from Oregon.
He has a great man bun, though. I haven't finished that sermon you sent me, but just the look of him just ekes wisdom.
Yeah. Eek.
Eek.
Anyway, it was a super fun trip. The drive out to where they live from Portland is like an hour and a half on a major highway, and it's just along this river the whole time. And it's so
the
beautiful.
Willamette River Valley, dude, and then you went into the Hood River Valley, and that's a really pretty
I just
spot.
need you to know, if you've never been to Oregon, if you've never seen it, and you're from Missouri, here's the difference. All of our trees are giant broccoli, and all their trees are giant asparagus. And it's such a cool change.
It is.
Oh man.
So I have a history with Oregon. Lived there for 9 years. Love it. Kind of like my childhood years, 7 to 16.
The best years.
The best
I'm
years.
kidding.
And I went from the Midwest, Wichita, to Oregon, and I lived there.
Yeah.
And when we moved into our first rental property before my parents purchased our first kind of house over there, it was this old piece of land that had over I think it was over 100-year-old pine trees.
Yeah.
That were like 10 to 12 feet wide. And it was one of those like experiences going from the Midwest where we're like, we got some live oaks that are pretty big. But these suckers were like, if you stood at the base of them, you couldn't see the top of the tree.
Yeah.
Like you're like, like the sky seems to like bow before them. Anyway, it's so cool. It's a mystical place in my mind, mainly because of like there's just a lot of really good memories and a lot of really fun childhood things that I think about the beauty of it. I didn't realize what I had.
It's an incredible place.
Even when you mentioned where you were going to the Dalles, I told you that that's where I played Little League Baseball.
The place is so cool. It's called the Dalles. Yep. It's not Dalles, Oregon. It's the Dalles. Get it right.
So my sister grew up there, and she's like, I always thought it was called Dallas. And I was like, oh, my gosh, they'd be so mad at you.
Yeah. It's such a cool place. That whole drive, that whole stretch of, it was amazing.
Well, I'm glad you made it back.
Me too.
And it does. We've had several conversations, and I know that I love that it's a special place in your heart as much as it is to me. And
it's my 3rd or 4th time going to Oregon.
I haven't been back in 20 years, so when you've that makes me jealous. Or I'm just kind of like,
It's the best because you can go to the beach, and it's still like 50. So everybody there has their like Columbia rain jacket on, bundled up on the beach, no shoes.
It's either Columbia or North Face, man.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I was just in Oregon, and among the many things I did, I finally started watching Ted Lasso.
Yes!
Which, let me just say for you viewers and listeners out there, we're both pastors. We both want you to know there's tons of language in Ted Lasso.
Absolutely.
At the same time, it is one of the most endearing, positive, like, heartwarming shows I've ever seen.
I don't know if I've watched a show in the last 4 to 5 years that I've left more encouraged in most episodes. And it has one of the best Christmas episodes I've seen in a long time. That Christmas episode
It's a good one.
So good. Anyway, I love Ted Lasso. I agree with you, though. It is not children friendly.
It's very British, which means just a slurry of cuss words and whatever. Yeah. Anyway, so just be warned that while it's heartwarming, while it's great, it's also got that in there. Anyway, it's one of my favorite shows now.
It's definitely real. I will say that. It's very real. And it meets people where people really are. I definitely enjoy it because I watch it and I feel like it makes me have the broad range of emotions. I love that you loved it, though.
But it's honestly,
Oregon and Ted Lasso.
There's like so many good emotional relationship moments and whatever. Part of what I love about it so much is just like the Americanisms running into the Britishisms.
Oh yeah.
Of like, we don't use the same words for the same things, and then like, and so
don't even drink the same water.
Yeah. The premise of the show is that a soccer team, I'm saying soccer because we're Americans, but a soccer team, which they would say is a football club in the UK, hires a like college sports like football coach in the US.
Who's never coached soccer.
I don't know if he's ever seen soccer. I don't know if he's ever looked at it. Anyway, so there's so many things. He's like, how was that offsides? Please explain to me. How was that offsides? I do not know. I don't know the rule. And there's so many things like that. One of the things, though, a Britishism that we don't have, we say we go on vacation, like I went on vacation. They say we go on holiday.
Holiday, yep.
It's so weird.
Which is a great transition, Ryan.
Oh, it is. I was planning that for so long. So, holidays.
We're going into the holiday season.
Yeah. That doesn't mean, for all you British listeners out there, that we're going on 3 months of vacation.
No, we're not. However, we are going to celebrate 3 separate major holidays. I don't know if major is the right word. Walmart's already jumped to Christmas. I mean, let's just be real. They've already gone there.
Halloween was in February. Like, we get it. Yeah. So we've got...
Why is that so true?
I know. We've got Halloween in October.
Yep.
We've got Thanksgiving in November.
Yep.
We've got Christmas in December. Yep. And then pretty much nothing else unless you count Valentine's Day, which is like nobody has well, that's not true. No individual. Workplaces have Valentine's Day parties, maybe. Individuals aren't usually like, hey, it's Valentine's Day. Everybody come over.
No.
Yeah. And then what's after that?
And then
Easter?
couples feel guilty.
Yeah. Yeah. That too.
And then Easter. Yeah, Easter's like really, I mean, there's St. Patrick's Day, a couple others, but like nothing.
Yeah.
You know, nothing.
Those were as important to me as like Boxing Day. It's like, what is it?
I normally just got punched because I didn't wear green. That was like normally the only way I knew it was St. Patrick's Day. I was like, oh no! I made a mistake.
People are more violent than usual. Yeah.
So we wanted to talk a little bit about the holiday season. Number of things we're going to talk to. The core of what we're going to talk about is just Halloween. We might do a little bit more about Thanksgiving or Christmas as they get a little closer, but the holiday season is kind of a weird time. Does it feel like, to me, it feels like summer ends and then it's like the slide at the end of the jungle gym. Where it's just like, and then October, November, December. Like
summer ends, and the beginning of school feels like you're just screaming for 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. It's just like so loud and chaotic, and everything's going on. And then you settle into it, and you're like, oh, and it's Halloween already. Yep. Okay, well, there we go.
It does feel like once September hits, October 31st is like the next day. You're like, how did 60 days or 65 days or whatever, 62 days?
It shows up so quick.
It does. And then part of what's fun is because I think each of us kind of have one of these 3 holidays that they really prefer. You know, I see a lot of Halloween lights in Mount Vernon, which is I don't know if it's just a setting on their decoration lights, you know what I mean? Where they're like, go purple.
Just leave them up all year.
You know, but I see a lot of decorations for Halloween. A lot of people go all out for Halloween. And then Thanksgiving, I feel like, is the forgotten holiday around here. I feel like it's the one that everybody kind of goes like, oh, yeah, we got to go to grandma's or
it's
we
not
have people over.
Like, unless you're the patriarch or the matriarch of your family, like, you're not really decorating for Thanksgiving. You're decorating for fall, if like anything.
My wife would be like, that is blasphemy, because like it's her favorite fall decoration, but they're just generic.
They're just fall decorations. It's not like you specifically put up pilgrims everywhere or
like
turkeys.
A roasted turkey.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree with you.
So
I mean, you're right, and on top of that, it is a holiday that it's based purely around just community, just like being
and
together
family.
And food, family, food, and friends.
And fun.
That's
fun, food, family, friends.
That's definitely the 4 F's of Thanksgiving. I mean, I love Thanksgiving. We'll get to that in a second. And then Christmas, I feel like it goes through seasons of being really fun. Like when you're a little kid, it is like over the moon. Like you are so excited. Then I know
it's like a second birthday when you're a kid. If you grew up.
But
like
everybody
we did.
gets one at the same time.
Yeah.
Like everybody's just like, this like it's like an Oprah moment. Like you get presents. You get presents.
Yeah.
But I also
you get Mike and Ike's.
You get a stocking full of coal. But then there's also this like, I don't know. I went through this like probably 10-year period, 7-year period where like you're still excited about it, but you start to have to like realize like how much stress it brings in. You got to work and you're going to pay for stuff.
When you're the one having to decorate for Christmas and buy for Christmas and whatever, it's different. Yeah. Sharon, her family goes super big for Christmas.
Yeah.
It is also the most cursy time for them.
Yeah.
We're looking really frustrated. Just like,
and I think that's the side of it too, where kids become kind of the social lubricant of like making sure everybody doesn't just get angry and get mad at each other. And when we didn't have any kids and there was no kids really in our family yet, and it was like everybody was getting together, it was like, what are we doing? It was like forced family fun.
Yeah.
You know, and you're just like, this is awkward and I don't really enjoy it. But now that we have kids, that's what I was going to say is like the next season. And I know you guys have a couple grandkids that you, or I should say nieces and nephews.
Grandkids, yep. My kids are having kids already.
You get to be around. And I think that makes all the difference.
Yeah.
You like watch a kid play with
nieces
some Legos.
And nephews. And yeah. And I think but at the same time, Sharon and I don't have kids, so we still get presents.
Oh, yeah.
That's the best.
Dude, one of my favorite Christmases was my first Christmas after I got married. Katrina and I had flown home for Thanksgiving, but we both had jobs and we couldn't go back for both Thanksgiving and Christmas. And so we chose to just have Christmas just us two.
Yeah.
And we bought an amazing set of like steaks and really good food. And we had mimosas the morning. Yeah. Like we woke up and had mimosas. We opened our gifts for each other and the gifts that our family had set. We ate this great meal. We took a nap and like it spoiled the tar out of us. We were just like, oh, this is how it could be.
Yeah.
No stress.
Our Christmas tradition. So we kind of did that our first year. We got married December 9th. So that means we went on our honeymoon to Puerto Rico, which was the best. For a week, crazy. We got back and just kind of hung out for a week, and then it was Christmas, and we were like, one more time, more presents, and it was so good. But we've maintained a really good Christmas tradition for us, which is we're always at a church or doing something with a church, and so like whatever service there is, it's usually Christmas Eve, but here it's Christmas Eve. Yeah, Eve. So we will do that service. We'll have decorated already and have presents and whatever. And when we get back, we usually like sit down and open up our presents from each other, super slow, super sentimental and meaningful and whatever.
Yeah.
One at a time. And like, that'll take like an hour and a half of just like very slowly, like they open it and then you're like, I thought about you because of this and this and this. And anyway, and then we have sparkling apple cider. What is that? Martinelli's. There we go.
Yep.
And then I put on Die Hard perfectly timed to where the credits roll at midnight. and then we drive to her family's house, which is pretty close, and then we spend Christmas with them. But we have our own Christmas first. But that being said, also in the month of December, leading up to it, we always watch all of Harry Potter.
I love that. Those are so. That's the other thing. Like, there's Christmas traditions. There's Christmas traditions. Christmas traditions for your own house.
Yeah.
Like, there's some that just like White Christmas is mine. I will watch White Christmas every year. I normally multiple times, or at least it takes me a couple sittings because it is like a 4-hour movie.
Yeah. But
I absolutely love it. It's like one of those movies that I put on for my kids, and they're like, "This is boring," and I'm like, "You're gonna like it.
You're boring."
But I love that. I love that, and I think those traditions are huge. And obviously, they change a little bit. When Katrina and I first got married, we had like 4 Christmases because we had my side of the family, then her side of the family, then her extended family, and then my extended family. And it was like one of those, by the end of it, you're like, no more.
That's so honestly tired. The best part about working for a church and being close to both of our families for Thanksgiving is you get the church Thanksgiving meal. You get my family's and her family's.
You're just like,
that's at least 3.
We're going to eat meals
maybe
for
another
other people prepared.
Anyway.
Well, and we started hosting. That was the thing about Thanksgiving, is we had everybody coming in, so we were cooking everything, which I enjoy, but it's just a different experience than showing up and having everything done.
Yeah.
Well, this is fun. So, I mean, the holiday season, I think for a lot of people can be kind of like a roller coaster ride and stuff, but it does start out with kind of a unique one in Halloween.
Yeah, Halloween's such a weird one. One of the reasons I love bringing up Harry Potter is I feel like Harry Potter and Halloween, when I was growing up and before, had the same weird stigma in Christian circles of like, this is the devil's holiday.
It's definitely misunderstood for sure.
Yeah. And so that's what we wanted to do here on the podcast today, is bring you in and give you the history of Halloween, help kind of dispel some of those myths.
The broken Wikipedia/YouTube/ research that we did over the last couple days, history of Halloween, along with what we grew up with, what we feel like the culture is.
Yeah.
Kind of just talking. Honestly, it's one of those things that I feel like you either have a really strong opinion about it or you didn't even know the conflict existed.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like in Christian circles. Like you either grew up with parents or a church that was like witchcraft and like anything to do with like satanic stuff.
And if they had a party, it was a harvest party.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was avoided at all, you know, that type of thing. Or you grew up with like a church that like had costume competitions and like grew up with like that, which was my experience.
Yeah.
And so, you know, there was certain like obviously restrictions on what that looked like, but it was one of my favorite times that like people were silly and like had a lot of fun and acted like kids. And to me, I loved that. Like to me, it was a very exciting time. So not wanting to just take things at a face value, we did a little research to try to make sure that maybe our what was your pre-understanding of it from a childhood growing up? Like where did you come from?
From childhood, it was like this is a holiday about candy. It's like this is for candy. Candy is the center of this whole thing. But then like I didn't like scary stuff growing up, and I still don't. And so like seeing all the people dressed up as ghosts and the Scream mask guy and like the few people who take it way too serious and are like, I look like a serial killer. You're like, didn't love that.
That's a troll that just crawled out from underneath.
Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of that stuff, but I think a lot of people saw that and were like, this is like all about promoting witchcraft, and like if my kids participate in Halloween, they're gonna want to be wizards when they grow up and do magic and whatever. And so I think a lot of people were scared of it.
Yeah.
But you don't have to be.
I agree. And some of it, I want to make sure that like, I think the people that had those strong opinions, maybe misunderstood a little bit of what was going on, had most of the time good intentions on what they were trying to do. But I would agree with you. A lot of that was based off of fear tactics to keep people away from what they perceived as like, you know, negative circumstances. And I don't want to pretend like flirting with satanic things or like, you know, I would say minimalizing some of that stuff is not, it's not what we're trying to do with this at all. I think what we're trying to talk about is recognizing that if we don't understand what's really going on in Halloween, it's probably because we haven't done some research and really looked into it, right? Because I could make a case that there are about 10 or 15 things in our culture that are similar to Halloween that can have a negative impact if we're not careful. I can list one that will make everybody angry. That is sports. I can go down the world of sports where like you can idolize and make sports something larger than it needs to be, and it will be a sneaky god of your life. Without you even realizing it. Whereas Halloween, I think people recognize that there's a line that some people intentionally cross that is, I think, beyond what should be done, and you know what would be healthy, especially if someone is following Jesus.
I think the lines we're talking about more specifically are like one is like some of the like sexy Halloween costumes, like
sultry
you don't need
stuff and all that.
If you're not gonna dress like that normally, why make this an opportunity for that? Secondly, is like the glorification of like blood and death and whatever,
and gore and scary and demonic stuff.
Like,
I mean,
go ahead and be a ninja. Like that's fine.
Yes,
whatever. But like, you don't need fake blood on your like that. It's not like a hard and fast rule. Like we hate you or something if you did that. But like, just like have fun with it and don't be a weirdo about it.
But I think that's the side of it too that I want to get to. Where I think there has to be some recognizing that when you do that, you are grafting yourself into the, you know, the kind of that side of the thing, you know, that side of what Halloween can be to some people. Have you ever been to like a haunted house or like done like a walkthrough?
So
one of those
I've
things?
been to one haunted house maze thing, Twisted Forest in Joplin.
Yeah. Is that one towards Orinoco? Is that
I think so.
I think I've been to that one.
So I've been there. I don't like scary stuff, so I don't even know why I went. Well, I went because somebody asked me, and I said I couldn't say no.
We have the exact same experience. Okay, keep
so
going.
I went in, and the very first room is a video that sets up like the theme, and it's scary and whatever. And it was me and the worship pastor I was serving for at that time, and his girlfriend, and another guy who's into scary stuff. And we saw that video, and then me and that guy's girlfriend were like, no, I'm going to sit on the hood of the car for 25 minutes and listen to people scream and wait for you to get back. And that was your whole experience. My whole experience. That is so funny. But I've had a bunch of people work for him, and every time they say, yeah, it was a tough night, somebody punched me right in the nose, I'm like, you deserve that. I wish I could do it.
So I had the exact same experience. I drug Katrina through the whole thing, and we've never been back. It was like one of those where I was like, why did we think this would be fun?
Yeah.
So I mean, here's the nuts and bolts. When you get down to what really Halloween was all about and what Halloween was intended to be, it is not a simple thing to try to break down or kind of find the origins of. All
the Wikipedia pages and all the rabbit holes you can go down, all of them say, like you were saying earlier, we think this happened. One theory is this and whatever. And most of the theories, which again aren't proven, they aren't factual necessarily. All the theories are like it was this culture's Day of the Dead kind of thing, where they thought that the veil between the real world and the spiritual world thinned or whatever.
Well, and it's like it's the year. It's kind of like their like New Year's ball drop. In that moment or like that like time period. They're like, this is all changing over, and that's what thins everything. So a lot of this stuff was based on these calendars of these Gaelic, and then I think it's Irish.
So it's Irish, the rest of the UK, and Germany.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is the Gaelic. That's kind of the Germanic tribes at the time. But it's not just Germany.
They were all close.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, you're right. And that calendar system resets, right around the 30th of October, between the 30th and I think the 7th of November. Like there's a range.
Their New Year is in there, which puts Halloween is their like contraction and shortening and their dialect, the way they kind of pronounced All Hallows Eve. And so the New Year that was reset for them on November 1st every year was All Hallows Day.
All Hallows Day. Yes.
So what that is, let's back up. So Jesus lived about the turn of when we set our years to.
Yes.
BC is before Christ and AD is after death, but then historians change some stuff about that.
Or whatever it is.
Whatever it is. That's what I learned in children's church, so that's totally right. Anyway, but that's an easy way to remember when Jesus lived.
Yes.
So like 0-ish to like 33-ish. The church was kind of underground and under persecution and couldn't really they didn't have conferences. A lot of them didn't have church services. They had home church, like small groups, but better and bigger. And anyway. And then in 313, Constantine, the emperor of Rome, said Christianity is the official religion of Rome. And Christianity now had a lot more options of things to do. Absolutely. They didn't have to hide. They didn't have to run. They didn't have to fear persecution.
And then it became like outward expressions that is like something like national holidays and stuff became to have purpose.
Yeah. So the Roman government was super integrated with the Roman cultic pagan religion.
Yep.
Their pantheon of gods and whatever. Christianity started influencing it was now the religion, so things started changing, buildings started changing. You could start building churches now. You can make building churches a thing.
Absolutely.
You could start making dates and have conferences.
And a large part of Europe is under Roman control, almost all the way to the island of, basically modern-day England.
Yeah. And so only from about that time, the mid-300s and on, could they even do any of this kind of stuff. Yep. Easter was big because Jesus rose, and that's the center of Christianity. Yep. But even Christmas didn't start as a formally recognized holiday until after that time.
Yep.
So from the 400s on, and especially into the 500s, they started establishing different churches in the area of the Roman Empire, started establishing a day to honor all the saints, all the people like Paul and the apostles and people since then who had been martyred for their faith. That was All Saints Day. There's debated when it should be, the Sunday after Pentecost or May 13th or November 1st.
Yep.
But then the church saw this pagan holiday in where we were talking about, Ireland, the rest of the UK, and Germany. And they wanted to place All Hallows Day on that.
Yeah.
And it's part of it is like the church took over that holiday that was to like feel close to your dead loved ones again.
Yep.
And to like dead emperors who you loved and whatever. Part of it is they took that over to like put their own holiday over it and make you not do the other one. But part of it is also we're trying to teach you the right way to think about death and life.
Yeah.
And why not do it when you're already thinking about it?
Absolutely.
On that day?
And the church does this with multiple holidays. Christmas ends up being similar.
Yeah.
There are several holidays that I think festivals and stuff that end up being kind of a part of the church's kind of montage to reclaim, but also redefine, like you're saying, some of these things that have been kind of, so that's why Halloween and that around that time period, it already has some kind of controversy, or I would say some diverse roots to what's coming about.
And many cultures have something like this. Like Hispanic cultures, especially south of us, have the Day of the Dead. I don't remember when in the year that is. But it's not a day to celebrate death and to celebrate evil in the world and whatever. It's a day to feel close to the loved ones you've lost.
Well, and Pixar made the movie Coco. That's exactly about that. I mean, and it's all about remembering them and remembering your heritage and stuff. And I mean, Hebrews talks about the importance of remembering the heritage of the faith and like remembering the saints that have come before you and living in response to that. So I mean that it's not a foreign concept to the Bible or to Christianity in any way, shape, or form. But it's curious because so November 1st becomes All Saints Day, but we don't celebrate Halloween on November.
We don't celebrate All Saints Day.
That's what I'm saying. So what is Halloween? Because then it's like we talked about November 1st the day before.
Yeah. So Halloween is All Hallows or All Saints Eve. Hallows, kind of think of like the Lord's Prayer, Our
Hallowed
Father
be thy name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which kind of means holy is your name, or respected or revered is your name.
It's kind of a reverence thing.
So in the same way that Christmas Eve wasn't really a holiday, All Hallows Eve wasn't really a holiday.
Yeah.
It was at most you starting All Hallows Day a little early.
Yeah.
But like that was a day, All Hallows Eve, All Saints Day, or All Hallows Day, All Saints Day. After that was All Souls Day. There we go. November 2nd, which is for everybody who you've lost, not just people who have officially been sainted by the church. Anyway, that was just them starting the celebration early, the day before.
Yep. And that's
it.
It's crazy. I mean, you could read all into it, where Trick or Treat came from, and basically talking to the people that are the dead, whether they were going to treat or trick, and there was all kinds of pranks and different things that happened, and the heritage of that in and of itself it's silly and funny, and it's not necessarily the deep, dark, nasty things we want to make it out to be. And when you really recognize that around this time, it was more recognizing that some had passed on, and
we loved them, and we still do.
And the eve of that, it has some dark roots to like death isn't fun to talk about, but it's not necessarily satanic or evil.
It's not inherently satanic for sure. And even us saying that it had pagan cultic roots, what does that mean? Does it mean it's satanic? Not necessarily.
No.
Like they didn't know the name Satan and like at the core of it, just like a lot of things that people find value in, there's some level of truth to it, some level of God's truth to it. So what were they celebrating? A Day of the Dead, where they wanted to be close to their lost loved ones. Is that a God thing? Yeah.
And I'll go back to the football thing. All right. Just imagine if the Super Bowl, Constantine took over and he turned it into Christmas. And for years, our whole culture had celebrated that this is like the biggest day where your team potentially has, and you got together and you ate and you hung out and you did all this stuff. And now all of a sudden it's Jesus's birthday.
Yeah.
And it's on the same day. It doesn't mean just because the roots were the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Does that make
it's got Christian roots among the other things. And if you can still celebrate Christmas, even though it also had some pagan roots because it's a solstice, and so of course a lot of people did that, and it still has non-Christian roots in materialism and focusing on what you get and not what you give and not your family, and Santa Claus and weird mythical made up things. Sorry if your kids are listening. You can choose to make it about that, or you can choose to honor Jesus with it.
Absolutely.
And you can still call it Christmas either way.
I think we'll probably link it into this video, but Matt Chandler out of the Village Church in Texas did like a 3-minute video on Halloween. And I thought it was so well done.
Yeah.
And what he uses as kind of his jumping off point, which I wanted to talk a little bit more than he did because he doesn't really go into much of the conversation or the background, but he uses 1 Corinthians chapter 8 where he talks about the food sacrificed to idols and versus the this meat that's and so of course what does Paul say in that? He's like, well, don't go into the temple and eat the meat in front in the temple, but if it's sold afterwards in the marketplace, buy it. You're free in Christ to do that. But then in the same breath he says, now if you have deep convictions that your conscience and your upbringing and what maybe your family celebrated it in a very negative way growing up, and it has some negative roots, that was the temple your family went to, and don't do it. Don't do it. It's okay. Abstain. But just know that if your conscience is free and that you're whatever, go for it. Feel free to buy the meat. I feel like Halloween is so similar to that in my mind. I feel like that's a very biblical principle, and as Matt does brilliantly in that short video, just saying I think that's a way to approach this, where we recognize that there's good and evil in a lot of things, and I say this from stage a lot, so I'm not the first one to say it, but everything evil is just something good twisted. God created everything good, and the devil or evil is not able to create; it's just able to twist what was already there. Evil doesn't create anything. It just twists what is good. And so in this world, I think we have to be careful with something like this, that it can be leveraged in a negative way, whether it's a soul, kind of a sexy, kind of way, or whether it's a overabundance of, like you said, glorifying gore and gross and
or
violence.
Even one that I forgot to mention earlier, but it's definitely important, is actually trying to lean on the evil spiritual powers in our world.
Yes.
It's kind of funny when to me when somebody doesn't want their kid to wear a ninja costume, whatever, that doesn't really mean anything serious, but there's a little bit of truth to don't play with Ouija boards or whatever. It's just a board, it's nothing mystical, but the premise of that is I want to contact a spirit
and
or
you're
whatever,
in control of whatever's going on there, and that's a whole nother discussion. But I also say too, and I get that families don't give their kids a ton of sugar and candy. And so part of that whole thing is that's just something that we choose to abstain from, and that's okay. What we choose to do. That's okay. Right? It really is.
Give them apples or something.
And I love
grapes.
I love the thought process behind this too. Is this is a perfect time to recognize that we have freedom in Christ and to live in that. And then the other side of it is we are supposed to leverage every opportunity to be in the community and to make relationships and so if we're not taking advantage of this opportunity, especially if it's in a safe way and it's in a free way, to be with our friends, to be with our neighbors, to have a chance to interact and to share and to be generous, and I think it's just a chance inside our culture to just do that in a free and safe way. So to me, Halloween, I told you this, my mom handmade costumes for years. We were cowboys, we were Indians, we did Ninja Turtles. One year, we went all out. And
I kept saying ninja because I was a ninja 5 years in a row, and by year 5, I was busting out of that thing.
But it really was a family affair, and we had a ton of fun going together. And I think there's a huge part of this that I get it if it has a negative connotation and that you were raised in a family or in someone that has, given you a conscience to say this is something I need to avoid.
Whether you're raised kind of like very protective or like Wiccan or something.
Yes,
like
exactly.
Don't feel like you have to.
I don't think you have to fight this to go, I need to be able to celebrate this.
Yeah.
And the other side of it is like, I think if you have freedom and you don't, there's restrictions. And I think you need to recognize that it doesn't mean you just get to do whatever you want in this type of thing. And you need to evaluate.
I think in essence, what we're trying to say is be smart, not scared.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Or how about be wise?
Yeah, be wise. That's
you know
better.
What I mean? Like be wise. Like make those decisions and stuff. Some of my favorite memories in college at Ozark is one of my friends, Lito, hosted a couples themed Halloween party, and it was silly and funny. I went as Peter Pan, and Katrina was Tinkerbell, and we had a blast, and it really was fun.
Yeah,
it really was a good time. I say that, and then I say that's part of the reason why, as a church, we choose to participate in either a small or large way. With COVID, we've kind of backed off a little bit of how we've done things just to try to provide safe places and ways for people to interact. But this year, we're doing a really fun thing called Jurassic Parking Lot.
Yeah,
which is cool. Our children's ministry and the staff there have got some inflatables and some people that are going to be dressed up, and they're going to make it kind of Jurassic themed, and kids will get to pull up with their families in their cars, see a good face, have some fun music, get a few pieces of delicious treats, and it's meant to be that, just a fun time to live life and to enjoy company. So I think if anything, I wish we elevated kind of All Saints Day and talked about some of that stuff more than did this less. Does that
I think first we'd have to start talking about saints, and then that's step
true.
one.
It's true. I mean, we do, but we don't call them that, right?
Yeah.
Like we elevate people of the faith, just in a different way in the Protestant movement than the Catholic one. But I do think there's some real power to that I didn't know was around this, Hallows Eve type event. So I'm really curious your thoughts. If you're listening right now, or if you're watching on YouTube, send us an email, put a comment if you're brave. Send us your thoughts.
If you're not too chicken.
You're that mom. No, but I really am curious of did you have a negative experience? Is there something we're missing a part of this that you've done some research and we need to know more about? Or let us know if this kind of frees you up a little bit you thought maybe you've been kind of hiding your enjoyment of this holiday, pretending like you're not supposed to like it. Maybe you learned something and you're like, man, I did my own research and this is really cool. And I know for Ryan and I, just doing a little bit of research and taking the time to kind of dive into it and talking about it, we were amazed how undefined it was. You're like, gosh, there's a lot of theories. No one really knows how this got here. And it's crazy that some of the first things we have is 1,000 years ago, but then it's even most of the things one theory, and I'm like, oh my gosh, another theory.
Yeah.
So, any thoughts, Ryan, as we kind of finish up our conversation? Run down the holiday gauntlet.
Yeah, I just think every opportunity is an opportunity to show God's love to somebody, and this doesn't have to be an exception. You don't have to be afraid of an 8-year-old in a ninja costume and think that that's a demon or something. You're fine,
dude. I'm reading a brand new book. It's not brilliant. It's Brand New by Brendan Manning.
Yeah.
It's called The Relentless Pursuit of Jesus. Yeah. And it's phenomenal. And I'm gonna have a little pastor moment here to just say what you just said in a really cool way. But the foreword is from it's by his friend named Larry. Yeah. And Larry talks about how he had this bitterness that built up in his life, and this kind of brokenness that was keeping his faith from growing. And he went to Brendan to talk to him because he was his close friend. And so he lays this really deep bitterness and brokenness and hurdle of doubt into Brendan, and Brendan starts to cry. And so this guy Larry gets really mad, and he's like, "Great, I broke Brendan. Yeah, my doubt was too much. I heard him." And then Brendan looks at this guy and he says, "I'm just so proud of you that no matter what gets in the way between you and Jesus, you fight to get through it and get back to him." And Larry just started to cry. He's like, and that's what the whole book's about. And I think that's exactly what we need to do. Whatever we're choosing to do, we fight through maybe what would be selfish, maybe what we think we know, and
what we're afraid of.
Yes, and we make sure we surrender it and give it back to Jesus, and then use it and leverage it to the best we can to love as he did. Taking a cross that would be an instrument of death and torture, turning it into an instrument of hope and life. We can do that too.
Yeah.
So, that being said, be wise and make sure you're choosing to make wise decisions and not just go into it blind or without thinking, but also live in freedom of Christ and love like he did too, which is generously. So, hey, good time. I know we'll continue the conversations maybe through Thanksgiving and Christmas as we get a little closer, but this is a fun little discussion, and I look forward to seeing comments and emails potentially that we get from it. So, hey, we'll see you guys next week. Thanks so much for tuning in. Have a great and glorious day in the Lord. We'll see you later.
See ya.